What's up, pod pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are checking out Podcasting Business School. This is the show where I teach podcasters how to love their show like a hobby and build it like a business. This is a podcast audit session. If you're looking for some podcasting tips on podcast growth, podcast monetization, podcast audience engagement, how to do this podcasting thing, you're in the right place. Today, I've got my new pod pal, Annie Fain Barrelon from the Fain House Radio podcast, and we're going to talk about all things podcasting. So Annie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so we've got a few different routes we can travel down. I've got lots of notes, I've got lots of ideas as always. When it comes to where you want to kick off the conversation, we could go audience growth with the downloads, we could talk monetization ideas, we could talk audience engagement. Where do you want to kick things off today?
Well, in a way, probably like everyone you talk to, we need all of it. So it's hard to say. I'm less than a year old and 28 episodes in. So maybe the growth part or the download, actually like making contact.
Yeah. Okay. So can you describe the ideal listener for your show? Like, who's that ideal person that you're trying to impact? And we'll kind of unravel it from there.
Well, there's a little bit of a range, but the main would be, well, two main audiences I think of. One is a group of people who are really busy with daily life and might have small children and are scared that their creative selves are falling to the wayside and need some encouragement to never let all those tiny bits of creative, motion go. Don't let it go, like fight for it. And then the other is just fellow artist, musician, dancer type folks who love hearing what everybody else is up to.
Okay. And then from a monetization standpoint, you do some coaching in the creative space. Can you describe that for me a little bit?
Well, what I do is I'm self-employed artist, musician, dancer. So it's like I'm my own manager for getting gigs. So I play in an all-girl band. I'm a banjo player, and I'm also a painter. And so I sell giclée prints and gift cards and originals of my paintings, watercolor. And then I teach a lot. So that could be clogging or baufolk or banjo, or people don't know what baufolk is. It's the kind of traditional dance that comes from France, where my husband's from. It's like their version of a contra square dance, community dance. It's really fun. And I also teach book arts. I teach different ages of kids. So sometimes I'm hired for day workshop or weekends. And so I admit that one thing I've had a hard time with is I'm not sure how to monetize in a direct way, because I'm not at this point offering digital courses or anything like that. And when I teach, it's not online. I've done some Zoom banjo lessons that I teach, but I'm like teaching on site in real locations in my region.
Okay. All right. So the term that keeps popping in my head is self-employed creative. Like I kind of strung some of those words together that you just mentioned there. And I feel like we could use that as a through line to connect all this. Would you say, obviously you have experience as a self-employed creative individual. Would you say that your show would add value to other self-employed creatives out there? Like they'd be like, oh, this is what Annie Fain's doing, or this is what this person is doing. I could do that too. Would you say that's kind of a through line of content that we could use?
Well, it's more like a little gift of encouragement and inspiration. And so if you were having a hard day, or if you're alone in your studio and you're like, what's the point of it all? That it's like, that's how I imagine it. So I'm not, even though I use things like Canva and, all the self-employed type things all the time, I'm not really talking about that side of it. It's more about this emotional side, and that we all need inspiration, and it's all connected to having a richer daily life. So it's not only people who are professionals that I'm interviewing, it's people that I feel have successfully not let go of their creative selves through time.
Okay, cool. So when it comes to like download growth, audience growth, and being connected with the right people, we've got to look, low-hanging fruit is SEO, obviously. So things like the podcast name, the podcast description, the episode descriptions that you put out there, we want to look for SEO words. So like the word self-employed, solopreneur, creatives, artists, those words should be popping up in those three spaces if possible. So obviously the name is, Fain House. So we've got that Fain House Radio. Like you could add a subtitle to that. The place.
I
Okay, go
sorry,
give it to me. Give it to me.
I'm only interrupting. I apologize because I listened to one of your episodes and you recommended this for folks. And so I had added Creative Living Podcast as a possible subtitle. So I was curious your thoughts from there.
Yeah, like something like that. Creative living. So, the term, like we have to figure out the SEO terms. Like if your ideal listener, what are they putting into Apple Podcasts when they're looking for a show like yours? What questions are they putting into Google when they're looking for answers like what your show is going to deliver on? Like that's the key thing that we have to figure out. It's kind of reminded me of my friend Jenny O'Connor has got a show called The Everything Enthusiast, and she's for multi-potentialites. So people that are into like everything and want to succeed in business and in life, but they've got lots of bright, shiny objects. So it's kind of, we have to get in there and find those words and then start putting those words in the title, the subtitle, the description, and the episode titles. But even like, if you think about the top 5 or 10 Google questions that you feel like your content delivers on, we can start naming your episodes with those. You know what I'm saying? So like, what's a question that you feel like your audience struggles with that we could actually do an episode on and make it the name of an episode? Do you have anything that comes to mind?
This is really interesting because what I'm doing now is pulling the titles of the episodes from like a really sweet, touching quote the person said in the interview. And that's an interesting, different way to think about it versus actually something that's a little more searchable. I don't know if people would search things like words of encouragement or community of fellow creatives or that kind of thing.
I think like encouragement for creative solopreneurs or, you know,
Or like feel good podcast, or I don't know.
or like how to overcome creative entrepreneurial imposter syndrome or something like that. Like those types of episode titles, that'll help. Because we want to attract, it's like fishing, and you want to fish with the right sort of bait for the right type of fish that you're trying to catch. We have to connect those two things. And sometimes it's a little trial and error. So I think that's something that when you are running across your listeners, if you get feedback, if you have people that email you or DM you on Instagram or people that reach out, you got to grill them. You got to just like every time, like, just have some questions like, what's your favorite episode? How did you find me? What were you searching for? How would you describe your top pain points as a creative right now? Just grill them. Like when you signed up for this, I asked you all these questions, like anytime I get a hold of somebody that's into my show, that's the most valuable resource that you have right there, because we want to multiply that. So I think a good homework action step is just try to connect, whether it's on your newsletter list, your social media, just start asking some of these questions. And like a good question is like, if you were looking for a show like mine, what would you put into Apple Podcasts to search for that? Or what kind of a question would you type into Google to find answers like what I talk about on my show? Something like that, and just see what they come up with. Is that making sense so far?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about monetization, because I definitely have some ideas on this for you. Because I know you're going solo and you're going hard solo, and you've got kids and you've got all sorts of things going on. You could turn your attention in a whole lot of different directions. And I'd really love to find just a simple monetization strategy for you that's easy to pull off. It's a win. And that way you can start to delegate and maybe push off some of this stuff, or hire a podcast editor to take care of that for you, or get a VA. Like I got a VA a little bit over a year ago. So I went the first 5 years with my podcast just solo like you. And I finally got a VA. I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? This is amazing. Shout out to Ashley. And so like we want to find an Ashley for you that you can offload some of this stuff to, so that you can multiply your brand a little bit here. So I know that you've got a few things here, but you're doing these in-person workshops and teaching and performances and things like that, we have to figure out a way to go virtual with this. All right. And there's a few different ideas that I have. Like one, I recently did an episode on doing a quarterly workshop. So you have people that you interview on your show, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's like a quarterly workshop technique where you may not have programs and products and services, but I guarantee some of these people that you are talking to, they do. They have books, they have online resources, they have the online courses. So you don't necessarily have to be that person, but you could host a quarterly workshop or a semi-annually workshop or monthly, whatever works for you, and invite some of these people back as speakers. And then we're selling tickets to this thing. You're getting affiliate commissions off of them. If they sell anything, they're getting an affiliate for the tickets that they sell out to their audience. So even if you don't have a giant email list, you have some other people, like your forces combined, the word's getting out there. So that's one thing. Also, like, I really feel like the other word that's coming to my mind is think tank, like a creative entrepreneur think tank. Because that, I know you're on the journey. Like, I would consider you an expert in this space, and I don't know how you feel about being positioned as an expert, but you don't have to be the expert in a think tank format. It's basically getting together a small group of creatives and we're sharing ideas. And I guarantee you have like a list of questions or practices. Like, we need to figure out like what are the pillars of a successful creative solopreneur business, and like what's working, what's not, and we all share ideas. And that's something that people will pay money to. Maybe you have a few of your former podcast guests come on to kind of lead certain conversations. Maybe this is a 3-hour workshop, maybe it's a 3-day workshop. Like, that's something that we'd have to figure out. But something like this, like, I would love something that's just, you don't have to create anything for it. You just show up and create the content together. And something like charging in that $297 to $497 ticket price per person. So it's a small batch thing, maybe 10 people, 5 people, kind of kick off the first one. Like, I want something that it's not going to take 10,000 people to show up for it to make sense for you. Like, oh, it's going to be $4 and I need, however many people. Like, no, let's charge what it's worth. Let's deliver on value, but let's move people to that next level. So I'll be quiet. How's that hitting you so far? Any of these workshoppy ideas? Do you feel like that's something that you would consider, or does that feel like it's a little bit too much to take on right now?
Well, I feel like I would consider, in that I teach so much. So I love the feeling of teaching and the idea of teaching, and I teach so many different mediums. So I have one philosophy of teaching I just approach all my teaching with, no matter the medium. I know for me, the tech's a little overwhelming. And then the only other part is, because I'm not speaking only to entrepreneurs, I might be speaking to a mother who's just had her baby who thinks she'll never paint again, that's where I get a little like, but maybe within that, there are entrepreneur types who really need that next level of encouragement. But I just know my audience isn't only entrepreneurs. So
Yeah. Well, and when you do a workshop, this is your opportunity to nerd out and niche down into a little nook and cranny of your audience. And it doesn't have to serve 100% of the people. Like, I could get real specific with Podcasting Business School. Like, I'm working on a workshop that's really going to focus on what I call building your community to client bridge. And it's like, all right, how do I get engagement and transition that into relationship building and transition that into making some money? That's not going to be for every single person. Some people that listen to my show, it's all about the art and they don't even want to monetize. And that's cool too. But this little niche workshop will serve them. I think you could do 2 different niche workshops, one for the mom that just had twins and like, I will never paint again. It's kind of like reclaiming control of your creativity workshop. Like, you've had it before, you've lost it for whatever reason. We're going to assess that and we're going to work on getting your groove back. That's one type of workshop. And then you have this business style, this creative entrepreneurial think tank. I think you could do well with both. Now, I will say that you can charge more and you'll probably earn more income from the entrepreneurial side of things, more than the self-help side of things, just because when people pay for something and they see that this could potentially help them grow their business or earn more money, they see that as an immediate return on investment. So they'll pay quicker and they'll pay more. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So, and I know you're in it for all the people just like I am, and you want to serve all different types, and that's okay too. But just I would probably start on the entrepreneurial side because that's going to get you a quicker win from the monetization standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
And yeah, and once you get that under your belt, you can do whatever you want. But I think I would keep it low key. Zoom, just do Zoom, no big deal. People, online payment. I use a like you don't even have to have like a whole payment processor thing set up. I use an app called Wave, and it's super easy. I can send you the link to that, and you just bill people. They say, "Yeah, I want in." Okay, you send them the payment link, and it goes to your bank account. So Zoom, Wave payments. Um, and I would build up for like maybe 2 months and start to talk, maybe 3 months, start to talk to people that listen to your show, start maybe doing a few more entrepreneurial style episodes to kind of feel it out a little bit. Are you doing a newsletter? Let's see here.
What I've done is I have I have MailChimp where people can sign up. And when that's where I got confused too, because a lot of my business is art and selling my art.
Yep.
And so I was like, if that's a way to monetize, how do I connect the podcast to that? Like, would people go to the Etsy shop or get in touch about an original or whatever? But what I do say at the end of the each episode is I'm talking about like you'll get a coupon and you can be in the private Facebook group and that kind of thing when you sign up for the email list, but that it's not a weekly newsletter. It's folks that are interested in hearing from me time to time. And the reason I say that intentionally is like I'm overwhelmed by constant emails, and I'd rather people sign up and like let them know when my new calendar limited edition printing is coming out or whatever, instead of constantly. And I know that it's recommended to be in constant touch, but I know I myself can't handle that and I delete them. And so I actually verbally say the opposite at the end because I want people to know they're not like signing up for this regular thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's completely okay too. And like we could go a different route, but you have an email list so that we could start to send an email out and go, hey, I'm building this thing. If you are in the creative entrepreneurial space, I would love for you to fill out this quick survey or just hit reply and let me know your answers to these 3 questions or whatever. And just start to kind of allow your audience to help you build this, and I'm doing that a little bit with my workshop. I interviewed a woman named Liz Wilcox, whose episode's gonna be coming out here soon. And she really talks about like when you're emailing and you're in build a monetization method mode, pull your audience in. So I see you've got a Facebook group. You could do the same thing there. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this workshop. What do you think? But just do one post, one piece of the workshop. What do you think the topic should be? Should we start off with entrepreneurship, or should we start with like the reclaiming control of your creative self? Vote here. Then maybe the next week there's an engagement post. What do you think? Should we just do a 1-day thing, or is this a multi-day thing? Simple question, and people will vote, and they'll kind of let you know what they think. And then, all right, if it's a 1-day thing, how long should we go? Like 2 hours, 2 hours or below, 2 hours or above, and just let them build things out. Of my previous podcast guests, which 2 would you love to see at this workshop? And going, so that's what I would do. And all of a sudden, when you come out with this, they're like, wow, like I felt like I built some of this, and they have like ownership over that. Is that making sense?
Yeah, totally.
So I think it could be pretty fun for you. Okay. Now, the other thing that I think you could do well with, and I already kind of hinted at this, is the community engagement lead magnet. Like that, you're a leader of a community, and you're a leader in a community that people, creatives love being around other creative people. That's just how it is. Like, that's why I love podcasting so much, because I get to connect with other creative people all the time.
It feeds us.
Exactly. So I think doing something like what I do with my Pod Pal Zoom parties, like there are 2 different ways. One is the one-on-one format that we're doing. But I think for me, my gut tells me the group synergy is going to work better. And you don't have to do both like I do. I do both because I like doing both styles. But I think that the group synergy is going to work really well for you for like, it's like this creative synergy jam session. It's a creative collaboration session and like a once a month thing. You record it. You're putting it out as an episode. So that knocks out one of your episodes of the month, but you make it a gathering of all these creative people and you can talk, like you can feature some people and let them bring up like, I just had twins and I used to paint. Now I never do. How did you guys get your painting mojo back or whatever? And then that could be a group discussion, but you got to find what's that pull, what's that reason they want to attend. What is that thing? Maybe you do a giveaway. Maybe you give them first. This is where you can promote your own art too and go, hey, here are a couple of my latest pieces. This is what I'm working on right now. And you show them like right there. I think that would be super cool. Or maybe you're teaching a quick technique because I want you to teach in some way also, whether it's teaching art, teaching business structure, teaching, entrepreneurial, creativity or whatever. I want you to teach for a little bit. And then we pull them in and let everybody do Q&A, let them do some open discussion. But I think that this will be, they will join your email list when they, do this. It's an email list builder as well. How's this idea hitting you so far?
Well, it's really fun because usually like my natural self is really shy. So over time I've had to like learn to just talk, and articulate and all that. And so while you're talking, I'm feeling like very excited, which I'm very tickled by that. I was afraid I'd be scared, but I think this is just that I need to hear what you're saying and it's exciting.
Good. Okay. So you're open to the idea. So you're saying there's a chance.
That's right.
So let's just talk baby steps with this. And, the first thing I always tell people when we're doing the community style, you're going to have to knock out a couple of these before your listeners really start hopping on and going, I want to sign up for this. Like I've been doing Pod Pals forever now. It seems like 10 years, but I think it's like 2 years. But I don't have to really recruit people for that. I know I'll get 12, at least like 10, 12 people there, sometimes as much as 25 podcasters in the room, and I'll max it out. But starting out, you're going to have to go out and recruit some people from your Facebook group, from your newsletter list, colleagues, friends, clients, and just say, hey, like I want you to have 4 or 5 people that will be there. Like they owe you something. They will show up and you will engage in my conversation. So you're going to do kind of a feeling it out session. And then you do promote it. You put it on social media, put it out there to your Facebook group and say, hey, here's the link. Let's get signed up. I use Calendly. It's a super easy to use scheduling, whatever you use to schedule interviews or whatever, just, kind of make that work. And, so that's the first thing. And I want you to record and put out 2 episodes, 1 per month that are kind of you really doing heavy, boots on the ground recruiting. Like, I need you to show up. Promise me you'll be there. That way you can just get some social proof going with your audience and they go, oh, wow, this is super cool. And you can try some different stuff out and let people know this is just kind of a zone of, creativity that you're going to be figuring out over the next several months. And then ask for feedback after you're, recording off. Make sure they all hang out for like 5 minutes and go, I need feedback. What went well? What didn't went well? What would you like to see? What would make you want to come back for the next one? How can we make it better? And then start pulling those things in. So the basic format, I want you to have some solo time for expert positioning on something, whether that's you being creative in painting, you talking about creative technique in the art or in the business side of things, or both, whatever. And then we want to give everybody that shows up an opportunity to speak for some reason outside of Q&A. So that's like the real hard part with this is like, what, with podcasting or with Pod Pals, everybody gets to shout out their show and say, here's who I'm looking for guests and all that. So with you, is it, collaboration always works like here, or they could do a project shout out. Here's what I'm working on right now. If you're interested, here's the link to my Etsy shop or whatever. People will show up for that, for an opportunity to share your platform and promote what they've got cooking. So collaboration, brand shout outs, project shout outs, something like that. How's that feel for you? Do you feel like that would be enough of a draw?
Yeah. Well, it makes me think two things. One is I notice when I'm interviewing and editing that I don't know if I'm hiding exactly. I'm trying to push whoever's speaking forward. So I edit out a lot of me because I want to be featuring them. And what I realize what you're saying is then maybe it's a way to be sharing me, and but in a nice way, and
Yeah.
and it's like face to face and share all the things that I do know, without being like me, because that's what I always hesitate. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm great, because I think everybody's great. um, and then the other is I've thought about some of this idea and I just wasn't sure kind of like what to talk about, how to organize it. At the end of I like how you're talking about collaboration and like so much of the wording you're using. This is like, these are nuggets. At the end of each show, each guest, I ask like, what's filling your inspiration cup right now? I ask that same question. And it would be really fun. At the end, part of this trading time could be people answering that for themselves. And it's so fun. It's a favorite book, a podcast, it's whatever. It could also be what's one of your biggest challenges right now, or is there a resource you're looking for? Or maybe there's a way to word it so it could be all inclusive to all of that kind of sharing. Because sometimes it's the sharing of inspiration. Sometimes it's like, what the heck is Canva? I don't understand. Why do people keep talking about this? Like, where do you get your business cards printed or whatever, and that feels very fun. And that the focus, I could share some of me, but I could also be like listening and supporting for them too.
Okay. So I think this is going to be worth some of your business time, like I would block off and just brainstorm a little bit. But the basic segments are Annie Fain teaches for like 10 minutes. And and then maybe you direct that into some open conversation and Q&A. And then we have the everybody gets to talk segment, and that can be it, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, you're good. But what are those segments going to look like? It's more like a talk show than a podcast. Like what are the segments of the talk show? But I love the idea of you being positioned as a group leader, as an expert, and because this will make the monetization transition so much easier, where like these types of relationships lead to people going, oh, I got to go to Annie Fain's workshop that she's putting on for creative entrepreneurs. Like this is the bridge to that. So these are the two lanes I'd really like to see you spend some time thinking about. And with the monetization workshop, that's a little bit of a longer play. Just start rolling ideas, just kind of have that in your mind and just kind of flesh that out a little bit. But I think this community engagement lead magnet, this could be happening, in the next month or so, where you set a date out there in advance and then work towards that and go, I got to find my first 5 people that are going to show up for this. And then I'll put it out on social, see if anybody else shows up, record it, put it out as an episode. When you put it out as an episode, have the link to sign up for the next one. So make sure that's on the, on the radar as well. And then each time you release one, you'll have more and more people to show up organically from your audience. So you're building your email list, you are engaging with real listeners and like actually being able to talk to them and pick their brain and make your show better. And then this greases the wheels of monetization. So it hits all, and these will be your most downloaded episodes. So it hits all the core podcasting metrics that we want to hit. Sound good?
Yeah, I feel that little bit of scared with mixed with the excited,
Yep.
but it's like the healthy amount. It's the good kind.
Yeah. And name it something fun, and really like brand it so that it's like I love the word collaboration for you, like the creative collaboration. I like that alliteration, the creative collaboration, blah, 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 thing. Don't call it a meeting, like I call mine the Pod Pal Zoom party. Like this is not a meeting. This is a party. So something along those lines, have fun with it. And I think it'll be successful for you. So, Annie Fain, if people want to dive into your world and give your brand a shout out here, where do we go? Website, podcast, all the things.
Website is afainhouse.com. And on Instagram, if you're interested in my art and my little life here in Western North Carolina, it's at Fain House. For the podcast, the Instagram is at Fain House Radio. And you can find it in almost all of your general podcasting listening locations.
Outstanding. Annie Fain, I've enjoyed this. I think you got a great potential with your show. I can't wait to see what you do next with it. And for everybody that's listening in, if you want to join me for a podcast audit, just like my pod pal, Annie Fain here, then you need to head on over to the website, podcastingbusiness.school. Get signed up. It's free. It's fun. And some even think it is awesome. So hopefully you got some benefit out of this one. And with that, I'll send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We will see you all next time.